Lena and Ryan were once just an ordinary couple, but their story spiraled into a heart-pounding chase when love, crime, and betrayal collided, turning a quiet small-town romance into a nationwide manhunt. Lena had always been the type of girl people overlooked, someone who blended into the background of her small town. She worked at a local diner, took evening walks along the same streets she had grown up on, and returned every night to the comfort of her mother's quiet house. Her world was steady and predictable, but also painfully ordinary. That changed the day she met Ryan. He appeared out of nowhere, leaning against a rusted car on the edge of town, a figure who seemed to carry both charm and danger in equal measure. For Lena, who had spent her whole life playing it safe, he was unlike anyone she had ever known. His smile drew her in, but it was the edge in his voice and the glimmer of rebellion in his eyes that made her stay. At first, Ryan's presence felt exciting, like a secret only she could hold. He told her stories about traveling from place to place, never staying in one town too long, always chasing something bigger. Lena believed him until whispers began to spread through the community. People claimed he was involved in robberies across the county, that the police were after him, that he wasn't just some drifter passing through. The rumors unsettled her, but when she confronted him, Ryan brushed them off with a smirk that melted her doubts. She wanted to believe him, and more importantly, she wanted to believe in the way he made her feel alive, reckless, and free from the weight of her dull life. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. Ryan's late-night calls, his sudden disappearances, and the way he avoided well-lit streets all began to paint a picture Lena could no longer ignore. She realized that the man she had let into her heart was wanted, and not just for something small. Police reports on the local news described a masked suspect who had robbed several stores, always escaping before officers could catch him. Each description sounded too close to Ryan for comfort. Still, when faced with the choice to walk away, Lena didn't. Instead, she became part of his secret. She started covering for him, hiding his belongings in her car, and driving him to places where she knew nobody would recognize him. It was a choice that turned her once simple life into something far more dangerous. Lena felt the thrill of living on the edge, but beneath the excitement was fear of being caught, fear of what Ryan might do next, and fear that she had already gone too far to ever turn back. The police presence in town grew heavier with each passing week. Patrol cars seemed to linger at every corner, and officers questioned locals about Ryan's movements. Lena could feel the eyes of suspicion falling on her, though no one said her name out loud. She had become the quiet shadow that moved behind Ryan, always a step away from discovery. Every time she picked him up in her old sedan, her pulse raced, terrified that someone might be watching. The sound of sirens in the distance no longer felt routine. It felt personal, like they were meant for her. Still, she drove him through back roads that twisted between cornfields and abandoned warehouses, places only she knew well. These midnight journeys became their lifeline, and Lena's loyalty grew stronger each time they escaped another close call. Ryan depended on her more than ever. He couldn't risk walking into stores or being seen in crowded areas, so Lena became his supplier. She bought food with cash, rented cheap motel rooms under false names, and even dyed her hair darker to avoid recognition. It was no longer just helping him hide. It was building an entire system around his survival. The further she sank into his world, the more she wondered if she was protecting him out of love or out of fear of losing him. She knew the truth, but buried it beneath adrenaline, convincing herself that their bond was worth the risk. The closest call came one evening when police raided a house on the edge of town. Word spread quickly that they believed Ryan was inside. Lena had parked just down the street, her heart hammering as lights flashed against the windows. Within seconds, Ryan bolted into the night, slipping into the trunk of her car before anyone could see. She drove away calmly, forcing herself not to look back at the chaos unraveling behind her. Every nerve in her body screamed to keep driving until the whole world disappeared. That night, Lena realized how thin the line between safety and disaster had become. The town buzzed with rumors after the raid. Neighbors whispered about the mysterious girl helping the fugitive, some claiming to have seen her car speeding out of dark alleys. Yet nothing could tie Lena to the crimes, and she remained hidden in plain sight. With every escape, her double life grew more dangerous, and the tension between loyalty and survival pulled her deeper into a path she could no longer leave. Weeks turned into months, and the tension that hung over Lena's life only grew heavier. Ryan's face appeared on wanted posters plastered across gas stations, bus stops, and even the diner where she used to work. She avoided those places now, knowing that one wrong glance could betray everything. The quiet thrill she once felt had faded, replaced by a constant pressure in her chest. Even the smallest sounds, a car door slamming, footsteps outside her window, sent waves of panic through her. She knew the net was closing, and it was only a matter of time before the police caught up to them. Ryan, however, seemed unfazed. Instead of hiding quietly, he started planning again, speaking of new crimes as if they were opportunities rather than threats. He wanted more money, more time, another chance to outrun the life chasing him. Lena listened, but felt her resolve slipping. She could see how reckless he had become, how the weight of being hunted twisted his judgment. Each plan he laid out pushed her closer to the edge of doubt. She had sacrificed her peace, her future, and even her identity. But Ryan's hunger for escape seemed endless. The investigation intensified. Lena noticed plane cars parked near her neighborhood, men pretending to read newspapers while their eyes tracked every movement around her street. At work, she caught glimpses of strangers she had never seen before, their stares lingering too long to be ordinary. Her phone calls dropped mid-conversation, and she became convinced they were being listened to. Fear settled into every corner of her life, making her question whether freedom was even possible. Instead of pulling away, she made one last attempt to keep them safe. She drove hours out of town and left a trail of misdirection, receipts under a false name, an abandoned jacket at a bus stop, and a fake address scribbled on a motel form. Each clue was carefully placed to send investigators chasing shadows. Lena's cleverness bought them a little more time, but it also escalated the hunt. Law enforcement doubled its efforts, now convinced the fugitive had help. Her disguise as the quiet, ordinary girl of town was wearing thin, and the whispers about her grew louder. Though Lena had delayed the inevitable, she could no longer deny the truth. Every move she made bound her tighter to Ryan's fate, and every escape only made the final capture more certain. Lena's loyalty began to waver as cracks in her carefully built world appeared one by one. She had believed that everything she risked, her freedom, her future, her family's trust, was for a bond that could not be broken. But one late evening, while scrolling through Ryan's burner phone to delete old messages, she found something that changed everything. There were texts to another woman, words almost identical to the promises he had once whispered to her. Talk of escape, of freedom, of starting over somewhere far away. It hit her like a sharp blow. She wasn't special, not the partner in crime she had imagined herself to be, but just another piece in his endless game of survival. The discovery filled her with rage and despair, but there was no time to process the betrayal. Ryan barged into the room with news that forced her to keep moving. He had been spotted nearby, and the police were tightening their circle faster than ever. Before Lena could think, he ordered her into the car. Her emotions boiled beneath the surface, but outwardly she complied, hands steady on the wheel as flashing lights pierced the night in the distance. Each turn she took was driven by instinct, leading them down backroads she had memorized from childhood. Yet the thought of his betrayal sat heavy in her chest, making her wonder why she was still helping him at all. The chase grew more dangerous as police cars appeared behind them, sirens cutting through the air like a warning she could no longer ignore. Ryan barked directions, urging her to push the car harder, to keep running. But her mind was elsewhere. She thought about the wasted months, the lies, and the way he had used her loyalty for his own escape. For the first time, she began to imagine a life without him, a life where she no longer had to glance over her shoulder or hold her breath every time a patrol car passed by. But Ryan wasn't done. He reached for a bag hidden at his feet, filled with stolen cash and supplies, a clear sign that he had planned this all along without including her in the details. Lena's stomach twisted as realization struck. She wasn't his partner, just another tool in his escape. As the chase raged on, Lena's thoughts shifted from protecting him to protecting herself. Her loyalty had been tested, and the cracks had finally split wide open. What had once been blind devotion was turning into something else entirely, something closer to betrayal. The night reached its breaking point when Lena found herself driving faster than she ever had before, the roar of the engine drowned out only by the echoing sirens chasing them. Red and blue lights danced across her rearview mirror, closing in from every direction. Ryan shouted at her to head toward the state border, his voice sharp with panic, but Lena's mind was no longer aligned with his desperation. Her hands gripped the wheel so tightly they ached, her breath uneven as her heart pounded against her ribs. Every second stretched into eternity. And in that silence, between the sirens and the screech of tires, Lena realized she was standing at a crossroads that would define the rest of her life. The roads ahead twisted into empty fields, dark stretches with no houses, no witnesses, no one to intervene. Ryan fumbled with the bag at his feet, checking the stolen money, as though that pile of bills could somehow buy him freedom. To Lena, the sight felt meaningless. What good was money when their faces were plastered across every screen, when the law was tightening its grip like a noose? She thought about the lies she had uncovered, about the other woman. He had secretly promised an escape, and the weight of that betrayal hardened her resolve. For the first time, she no longer felt fear of losing him, only fear of losing herself completely if she kept going down this road. With the police drawing closer, Lena made her decision. Instead of following Ryan's frantic orders, she veered sharply off the main road into an abandoned lot littered with broken concrete and rusted fences. The sudden move jolted Ryan forward, his anger spilling out as he demanded she keep driving. But it was already too late. Police cruisers swarmed the lot within seconds, their headlights blazing like spotlights on a stage. Officers surrounded the car, weapons drawn, voices commanding them to surrender. Ryan tried to bolt, throwing the door open and sprinting into the shadows, but the chase lasted only moments before he was caught. Lena sat frozen behind the wheel, hands trembling but steady enough to stay raised where everyone could see. The world around her blurred with flashing lights and shouts, yet in that chaos, she felt something she hadn't in months. Relief. The chase was over, not just for Ryan, but for her too. She had chosen survival over blind devotion. And though the story of her fall shocked everyone who once thought she was ordinary, Lena knew this was the first step toward reclaiming the life she had nearly lost forever.